Welcome to this fan-requested comparison. George Mavrov, I should have practiced the name before I read this. Paul Dillett versus Curry. I'm sure the guy means Brandon Curry. So I used the 1994 Paul Dillett and of course the 2019 Brandon Curry with all this talk of the 90s guys being much better than, in particular, the current champion, Brendan Curry. It's nice to do some comparisons, and Paul Dillett landed usually around that sixth spot. Sixth. Hard word to say. Anyway, Brandon Curry, let's do a little comparison to see if he would be in the top six. So this is a fairly relevant video comparison or fan requested comparison. This is the front relaxed position, and I do pick Paul Dillett. They're very similar. Paul, I like his midsection a little bit better, more aesthetically pleasing. Plus, he's 10 times bigger. But it is the front relaxed position, so I take all that into consideration. It is a slight edge to Paul. Now, this is the meat and potatoes of this meal. This is the muscularity round, the front double bicep pose. Wow, it is actually close. Brandon Curry has a very underrated front double bicep pose, along with a couple other poses we'll see in a couple of minutes. What a fantastic showdown. I think the calves are a clincher for me. The Paul Dillett calves. Wow, look at the little tiny whiffles in comparison on Brandon Curry. Conditioning of these two seems to be similar. Let's have a closer look now. Take into consideration there is no calves in this. We know it is double, triple, quadruple domination for Paul. So I am leaning towards Paul because we can see the conditioning is fairly similar here. Paul, outstanding altogether, except for when it came to his front lat spread. He did have capabilities, I think. One of his lats is quite pronounced. You take one side and actually you could paste one side over. It would actually be a decent front lat spread, but one side just fails terribly. And big calves versus no calves or not, Brandon Curry looks tremendous in this shot. He blooms like a big flower. It hurts me every time I see it, though. I see them calves. I wish. Of course, if I could grant a wish for myself, I wouldn't wish for big calves for Brandon Curry. Anyway, I'd probably wish for 1 million subscribers. That would be a decent wish for sure. Side chest pose. This is one of those shots of Brandon Curry. Very underrated. He's rapidly becoming one of the best to hit this shot. Of course, so was Paul Dillett. I had to use the 1994 Arnold Classic version of him just to show the sizes and to gauge everything with the calves. Now there is this Mr. Olympia version. He's a little bit bigger, I think. A little bit more vascular. Look at the legs on Paul. Very, very close, though. Very aesthetic is Brandon Curry, as well as big and muscular. So close, almost too close to call. Slightly towards Paul for the side chest. Of course, the side tricep, it's a similar story. When you look at the leg and the tricep itself, Paul has the muscle. But his aesthetics, goes without saying, they are terrible in this shot. It looks like a big bean pole. I don't know what he's trying to prove. Like I said, he has the capabilities of snapping a good shot. I mean, look at the display on Brandon Curry. How can I not reward that? He looks fantastic. But he's got the soft tricep. It's much like the side chest. I guess I'll lean towards Paul for the side chest and towards Curry for the side tricep. But both of them, they could honestly go either way. So I'd like to try to be fair. I'm not in love with Paul Dillett. I'm not a Dorianite for either man. I like to get to the bottom of it and get to the truth. So let's have a look at the back developments. And it is plain for me to see that Paul Dillett, he is not equipped to do battle against Brandon Curry. As far as the rear lat spread is concerned anyway, had to use a 1993 version of Paul Dillett for this. And most of the shots, or if not all of them, aside from a couple, are the 94 Mr. Olympia. His best version, but his rear lat spread was never his best pose. Very unsymmetrical, and if you know me, Symmetry is very important when it comes to bodybuilding. And Brendan Curry, he does not have the best rear lat spread of all time, but more than enough to beat Paul Dillett. The rear double bicep. Now, I might sound crazy here, but Paul, he actually looks decent, passable. Is he beating Brendan Curry? No, he is not. He has big, marshmallowy, soft delts, and I think that hurts him just enough to lose this pose. Because when you look at the leg development, Paul Dillett, unreal. One of the best of all time, probably, when you consider how big he is. Just the lower body alone from the back shots. Paul Dillett, one of the best. Now, if you hear somebody say that Paul from behind is one of the best of all time, you should probably give your head a shake. But when you're considering just the leg development, some of the biggest calves of all time. And look at the Bay Donk, O Donk, that Badonkadonk, that great big bum, striated too, of Paul Dillett. Either way, Curry is doing enough to fetch a point with his back development alone. So Curry gets both back shots. But I'm sure that was to be expected in the camp of Paul Dillett. But one thing that also could be expected is a clean victory in the ab and thigh shot. He is very narrow, is Paul Dillett, in the waistline. Very slender indeed, but his big booming shoulders, that broad chest, make a nice V-taper. The six-pack alone is enough to beat Brendan Curry. Look at those abs, deep cuts. When you look at the thighs, I mean, how many inches are those thighs? 50? 53? Hard to say. I'm sure it's not 53. But they are big. 30, I'm sure. 30 plus. Either way, it was enough to get a victory for Paul, as well as here in the most muscular. This is a very ominous and foreboding picture of Paul Dillett. He looks like a big demon. You can see the big chin, the chinny chin of Joe Weider right behind him. Wow, look at the delts, the chest, the arms, and even the leg on big Paul Dillett, striated with feathering. Feathering. He is getting a victory despite Brendan Curry looking fantastic. Of course, I have to be fair. The crab position, this is a little bit closer, looks a little bit more organized, symmetrical in the way of Brendan Curry. But is it enough to beat Paul? Close in this one. But combined, Paul is taking the most muscular. And when I divvy these points up, it is an exact tie, ladies and gentlemen. So neither or there either camp and group and fan club can brag about the victory, but I don't like to leave inconclusives. It's not fair. My opinion, Paul Dillett wins this one just simply by that edge that he got in the front relaxed position. Who knows the way it would have went if I had an entire symmetry round to deal with. Brendan Curry may have won from behind. Of course, Paul had a decent rear relaxed position. Couldn't find one, a good one anyway, of Brendan Curry from 2019. Very vexing. Either way, this man, Paul Dillett, is your winner today. But like I said, don't gloat, you 90s guys. This was a close one. So Curry able to defeat Dorian Yates 97, but unable to defeat 94 Paul Dillett. And that is believable, laughable to some people, but give your head a shake, you Dorianites. 97 Dorian Yates was terrible. Paul Dillett 94 would wipe the floor with him. Either way, hope you enjoyed this little video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, guys.